Okay, we're back here with Rob and Dave, and I've met so many different people in my time, and I've heard what so many people say, and I'm warmly touched by what you're saying. You were just talking about how, and we're hearing all the time, you were saying, Dave, that if you put your mind to something, you can do it, and it becomes just talk. And the problem a lot of the time is it is just talk. We don't put one foot in front of the other. We don't go out there and just see what's happening. We don't actually dare to dream, or more importantly, build the dream. Yeah. So, I think there's a few questions in my mind. Maybe the first thing is to say, you were saying that, maybe today we can decide that we're going to fill all the soup kitchens with food, or could we get premises? Are those literally the things, are those examples of things that you literally did?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, those are done. There was 25 tons of food the first time. We were told that refugees were having a difficult time because they can't claim benefits and they can't work, and yet they apply to be able to stay in the country. And there's nowhere, they can't legally actually get money in any way, shape or form without breaking the contract with the government. So they have to live off of soup kitchens. And the soup kitchens were running out of food, and they came to us. And I asked them on the phone and said, well, how much do you want? And they said, oh, the sky's the limit. And then we started calling, we ended up calling General Mills, and General Mills started saying, yeah, we have got some stuff here.
Well, these are large food suppliers.
Can you take 100 cases of this? Right. Can you take 1,000 cases of that? Can you? And the next thing you know, they sent an 18-wheeler lorry, absolutely packed. It took 5 hours to unload.
Though it's worth pointing out, if you can get a word in Edgeway with Rob, then you're doing well. I think it's basically the way it goes. But it was incremental for us. It didn't start with lorry loads of food and big buildings and stuff. It started very humbly, actually. It started with a pizza. Can we get a pizza for free? Can we be the guys who are in the right place and the right time to get something as simple as a doughy ball covered in sauce for free? And for the gang that gathered around Rob, it went in believable incremental steps. So we went from pizzas, we went to concert tickets, and then we went from concert tickets to individual items like blenders or toasters or computers. Then there was a watershed moment. Can we get a television for free, a flat screen TV? That was the biggest I could dream at that point. I'm the one who came up with that. Can we get it? And it was impossible. Now, maybe watching this at home, you're listening to it, imagine now, could you get a television for nothing that's worth maybe £3,000 or £4,000, 52-inch plasma television? Could you do that? I couldn't believe that. That was right on the edge. My fingertips could just about hold on to that.
They nearly gave up. They were trying and trying. They'd have me sitting on the side, and they called me Mr. Burns because I'm doing all these hand signals.
We're on the phone, by the way, doing this. We're on the phone.
Trying to get them to say the right thing and to pick up. Because I got used to doing this. I learned the technique. I taught myself it over many, many years. And he called it phone whispering, and a good name for it as well. And so at that point in time, they were learning this, and I'm sitting off to the side. And I could see where they were missing the light, and I could see where they were heading towards it. And it was 4:30, I believe, and they were ready to quit. And I said, no, don't quit. Keep calling. Don't quit. And within 20 minutes, he had this TV arriving.
These steps for us were very important, because every time we broke into a new area, our ability to believe that we could be the person who did that increased. And then it built, went from individual items like one television. I remember the last time we dealt with televisions, fast forward 3 or 4 years, Rob got a huge load of stuff, and in amongst it were 6 flat screen televisions. A huge...
Well, I couldn't let you hold the lead on that forever.
but it kind of built up. My understanding of the process, having gone through that, is that this kind of thinking is very much like going to the gym. The first day in the gym, you don't lift the heaviest weights and you don't run on sprint on the running machine. The first day in the gym, you lift the smallest weights and maybe you walk a little. And then you go every day and slowly, and then maybe in 2 years' time, you're ready to go and compete in Mr. Universe.
Right, there are a number of things I want to ask you guys. But the first thing and it just keeps on jumping to my mind, one of the most beautiful things I think I heard last year was that soon after when Nelson Mandela died, and when they had the funeral service and all the rest of it, there was some interviews where who is it? Is it David Dimbleby was I've got to get them right now. Was in there in South Africa, was commentating about this great man and asking a number of commentators about how he did what he did. And one of the people that they interviewed was an economics expert, and so the interviewer said, How was it that no, I understand that one of the things that Nelson Mandela was really good at was he was really good at fundraising and getting money into the country. And they said, yeah, he was absolutely brilliant. And they said, well, tell us a bit more about it. He said, well, what Nelson would do is he would read the newspapers and he'd find out which companies' stocks had risen and so on in the morning. And then in the afternoon, he would call the company directors and he would ring them and ask them to donate something to the country, money, whatever, to the country. And he was asked, how successful was he? And the interviewee said he was incredibly successful. Nobody ever turned him down because they so believed in that. And I guess a lot of it is that when you so believe in what somebody's doing, I guess a lot of it has got to do with authenticity, right? Because if you're asking somebody for something and somebody knows that genuinely there's an authenticity, there's a real genuine intent of kindness, then is it that's
I would guess that you've probably got that backwards with due respect.
Right, yeah.
I would have thought that what really was going on there, from my experience as a phone whisperer, is not that everyone else believed him, that he believed in himself.
Right.
He had faith in who he was and what he had to offer and what was going on in his vision that led him to believe that he could have these conversations. And he had the faith in what was going on. And that is infectious. And then the other guys, the CEOs that you mentioned, they joined him on the ground that he created. His faith in what he had to offer created a kind of island. And he was inviting people to come stand on that island with him. It wasn't that they already had that faith in place. It's just suddenly you've got this guy on the phone who's absolutely overwhelming. He believes in his cause. In this case, it would have been Africa and what this money would have done for this or that. But so overwhelming was that they had no choice. He was at the reality frontier with them, but his reality was so much stronger. The reality that they were going to help him, the reality that this was a good thing to do, the reality that they had no choice but to say yes, was so compelling that everyone joined in that. And that, as a phone whisperer, is what we do. We get into a state where we're so into what we're doing, and it is, we can taste it, it's so potent, it actually creates reality around it. And then once you've got a piece of reality, stable ground in reality, real things that are backed up by someone who really believes in them, most people don't believe in anything. You know, so wishy-washy, so you actually present someone with a piece of solidness. It really potent in this world, and then people want to stand on it with you. And as soon as they do, they complete the cycle. So as soon as his faith that they'd give him the money, well, that became a reality the second they gave him the money. So by joining him on that ground, they helped complete that piece of ground with him, and then they felt strong and like they were standing next to a giant. That's what I imagine was going on there, anyway.
Yeah, Rob, do you want to add anything? Because in terms of this particular this approach, because we've heard a little bit before about how you were introducing this idea. I want to find out. I've got to ask you both a little bit about yourselves. I want to find out where this thing came from. What was the story before the Kindness Offensive? Where did you start? When did you first decide that you wanted to do something a bit crazy and out there?
Necessity and wanting to do things right. So basically, not going out and breaking a window and looting a shop. I wondered, how you could go about doing that.
And when did that start? How old were you when you first decided that I want to try something?
I don't know, because I stopped keeping track of how old I was, because I think it's bad for you. You act, the age you think you are.
Right.
And I think that if we didn't think it, a lot of people wouldn't age very much.
He's a very modest guy. If you're watching this, put into YouTube Muhammad Ali and me.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know every detail, but I know that he tried to get hold of Muhammad Ali at one stage, and as a complete stranger, and he managed not only to get hold of Muhammad Ali, but he got in front of him, and he had this idea that if he played him a song, that he would help him with his music. And he played him a song, and the guy made him an album.
Right.
So this idea.
So what was music? So music was. So you were music before, were you?
I've played music since I was 8 years old.
Right.
Still plays music today.
Okay, that's
If you're
part of
lucky
our
enough
background.
to
So
catch
there's
it.
something about. Well, can I just say something about that then? I'm curious about this music thing because I've got a hunch, that if you're a creative, right, that creatives are quite used to something coming from nothing. 1 minute there's no song, the next minute there's a song. So when I kind of started out in business, I knew nothing about business. All I knew was that I'd worked in media, and then I worked as a singer and performer, and I knew that 1 minute there's no song, next minute there's a song. So I'm kind of quite used to working with nothing to get with something. So the essence of what you're talking about chimed so magically for me what chimes even more magically for me is the thing that you point that very few people actually try it and see what happens when you try that particular kind of muscle. So I think there's something there innately with creatives where they have this, but often they forget to apply that to their actual lives, their own businesses, or what they're own doing. So is there something in the musician where you're just kind of used to let's just see what happens? Was it from there, or was it from somewhere else?
No, I don't think so. It was just purely necessity,
Right.
and working out. My motto is act as if, and I was working on how do you connect to that? And if
it's a motto that people like so much. He keeps writing it on his hat, and they keep stealing his hat.
stealing the hat.
This is not his hat now.
They stole it again.
Right. And was it
Groupies take his hat.
And what I'm curious to know, was it
They literally do, yeah.
well, I'm curious to know, was it necessity for you, something that you needed, or necessity of the things around you and people who were hurting?
And
or
at first it was things that I needed myself,
Right.
and then if people around you need something. But
People around him got hold of the idea that he could do just about anything on a telephone, and then they lined up.
Right.
That's the truth of it.
Right.
And I was one of the people in line to start off with before I asked him if he could teach us, because
Right.
it became a bit of a joke.
So what were you doing? So what were you doing before? So before you met this dude, what was life like? What were you doing?
I don't know if I can talk about my life before I met Rob.
Right.
Maybe I'm a born again kind of offensive guy. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Yeah.
I had a pretty mundane existence. I worked in media as well. I've
Right.
been to university. I can honestly say though that the most exciting aspect of what I've ever played around with and done is I'm living the first line of my obituary right here, right now. This is what I stand for. This is who I am. This is what I do. And I kind of feel that most of what I've done prior to that has kind of been messing around on the shallow end, really.
Right.
As soon as you start realizing that the difference between you doing something remarkable and not doing something remarkable is your ability to imagine it and then start moving towards it.
Well,
It's as simple as that.
Right.
Well, it's the game changer. You
Right.
become a different person after you've realised that.
Right, well I want to talk about that. I think maybe we'll pause there and come back to that, because I think lots of people will be watching this will be thinking, oh, that's all very well, but I just wish there must be something very special about these guys, something in them, or maybe their backgrounds or whatever that means they can do something. My circumstances are such that I can't do it, which is the default.
It's experience. It's like you see someone driving a bus and you think, ooh, I couldn't drive that bus, because it's a big thing that needs to be wielded around the road. Yet there are a lot of people that can do it, and you see a lot of buses going by because they practice and they start practicing using a car. Very few of them will get in a bus on the first drive, but they learn how to do it.